And next up, we have Ankur Jain from MMJS Consulting, who's going to tell us about e-invoicing in the UAE.
Thank you very much. So before I start, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a good, good meal outside. And this topic is something very important. Before I start, I just wanted to understand, what do you understand about e-invoicing? Is raising an invoice electronically via an email or sending a PDF copy of an invoice, is that an e-invoice? So this side it is saying no. What do you think? What is an e-invoice? She's saying that is what we want to hear from you. So just to start up to set the context, what I would be covering is specifically what is e-invoice, why we are having e-invoicing in the UAE, what is the reason behind it, what has happened till date, what the Ministry of Finance or the FTA has released, and what as a business and what as an accounting firm we need to do so that we are well prepared before the e-invoicing deadlines. Yeah, so as I said that e-invoicing is not issuing an invoice via an email or in a PDF document. E-invoicing is a mechanism where an invoice data is exchanged between from a seller to a buyer in a structured format in a secured network. So this is very, very important to understand. So e-invoicing is just not issuing invoices on the email, because a lot of businesses currently also doing, correct? So that is not an e-invoicing. E-invoicing is a method where invoice data in a very structured format will go from a seller to a buyer in a secure network. So there are three elements here. One is, what is the meaning of a structured network or a secure network? What is the meaning of, what is the format in which the invoice data will flow? So what we understand from the Ministry of Finance in the UAE is that the exchange of invoice, if you see, would be in XML format. In that format, the data will exchange from the seller to the buyer. Okay. And what is the structured data format? It is a PayPal invoice format under which, or the PayPal network under which, the data will flow, because it is a very secured and structured network under which the data will flow. And as I've already covered, this does not cover your invoices which are issued on an email or in a PDF document. The next question is why? Why we are having an e-invoicing? Is the current process not sufficient enough, and why we are having e-invoicing right now? VAT was introduced in 2018. We are in 2025. Why we are talking about e-invoicing now? So basically, there are so many things which has happened, which gives to the authorities that this is the right time to introduce e-invoicing. First, we see the UAE 2030 vision, where the government is very clear that all the government department and everything around it should be digitalized. Everything should be in electronic format. So that is one of the you can say one of the pressure which is coming from the government side as well. Second part is it brings more transparency, it reduces error, and it avoids the VAT leakages. So what is a VAT leakage? So right now, if you see, when you issue an invoice and you charge VAT to your buyer, what your buyer does? If it is using for their business, what they will do with the invoice? They take the input tax credit, correct? Is there any mechanism where we can identify that buyer, the VAT which the buyer has paid, whether the government has received that money or not? So there has been a lot of VAT leakages where the invoices are being issued the buyer or the other party is receiving the input tax credit, but the VAT which has been charged has not been deposited to the government account. So there is a lot of transaction we identify, and there has been a lot of audits which the FTA has also started to identify these transactions. But under the e-invoicing, all those things will not happen because it's a real-time reconciliation happening. So this is also one of the reasons why they want to introduce the e-invoicing. Third is global trends. UAE not the first country to introduce e-invoicing. There are 60 plus countries around the world. They have already started or already have implemented e-invoicing. There are different models which are there. And you know what? If we see the region, Egypt has already introduced, KSA has already introduced e-invoicing, and now UAE will introduce. In terms of globally, if we see, the UK has already released the consultation paper. They also wanted to introduce e-invoicing. Malaysia is in second phase of implementing the e-invoicing. So a lot of countries around the world has either implemented e-invoicing or are into the phase of implementing e-invoicing now. If I talk about the GCC, as I said, KSA has already done it. There are different phases which are going on. UAE have already said that they would be implementing. In the next slide, I will go through the timelines. And we also understand Oman, Bahrain, they are all talking about introducing e-invoicing sooner or later. So this would be a norm very soon in the GCC, when all the GCC countries where the VAT is currently there, the e-invoicing will be operational or functional. And the last part is, it increases a lot of transparency. As I said, that it will eventually reduces a lot of burden because, what will happen in future in different phases. Once the e-invoicing become operational, your VAT returns will get auto-populated with a lot of data. So your time and efforts to file a VAT return will also be reduced drastically. So that is what the vision is, and that's the reason why the e-invoicing is coming. Just a snapshot internationally, as I said, that 60 plus countries have already introduced all around the world, Europe, Africa, Americas, everywhere countries have implemented e-invoicing. And I think that's the reason why the countries in the Middle East are following suit. Now coming to the UAE e-invoicing, the applicability, the timelines, and the model. These three things are important for us to understand. Most important thing, as per the understanding given, e-invoicing would only be applicable to B2B and B2G transaction, which is business to business and business to government. So very important, business to customer. B2C transactions currently are not into the ambit of e-invoicing as we speak. So that is most important thing to understand. The other part is in terms of timelines, where are we? So, Q4 2024, FTA released, FAQs on the portal, giving some details about the e-invoicing. Lot of FAQs were there. Then, a public consultation paper in February 2025 was released, which provided details about the data dictionary, which provided about the used cases, which basically is that which is the format in which the invoices should be there, what are the data field you require. That was issued in February, on which public consultation, and we also provided our comment. Only till yesterday only there was another call from the FTA or the Ministry of Finance, which provided some answers to the public consultation document. Now what we understand, two major dates, Q2 2025, we understand that the legislation and rules in related to e-invoicing would be released, and July 2026 is the go live date for e-invoicing implementation in the UAE. Now the model, which is the most important part of the e-invoicing. So what model which UAE is implementing is a decentralized 5-corner model. So if you see here on the screen, so what is a 5-corner model? So typically when an invoice is raised, we have two parties, the seller and the buyer, correct? And now how 5 corner happens. So if you see, corner 1 is the supplier, okay, and corner 4 is the customer, okay. Now what you will have a ASP. What is an ASP? Accredited service providers. And what are their role? So ASP will be a bridge between you and the FTA, where whatever invoices which you generate, they will validate and then they'll push the data to the FTA's secure database. This is the way it will work. So if you see here on the screen, a supplier will have his ASP, which is known as supplier ASP. Then customer will have a separate ASP, which is a customer ASP, which is corner 3. Corner 4 is the customer and corner 5 is the FTA. So there are 5 parties which are involved in every transaction. So you have a supplier, you have a supplier ASP, you have a customer ASP and the FTA. This is the way the model will be there, 5 corner model. So now how this 5 corner model will work, very important to understand. So when a supplier, as I said, he will issue an invoice, he will make the entry of the invoice in their ERP system. That data in an XML format will be fetched or would be transferred to their ASP. What ASP will do? They will validate the data. So there are data fields or data dictionary which I'll take you through. They will validate the data. After validating the data, they will push the data to customer ASP. What customer ASP will do? Customer ASP will also validate the data whether all the information of the customers are proper or not. And after that, they'll push the data to the customer where he can store the invoice. And at the same time, both corner 2 and corner 3 will push on the data to the FTA. So what is happening right now, if you see here, when each invoice which is generating, the FTA also have the access to invoice. Right now, when we are issuing an invoice, FTA does not have any details about the invoice until they do an audit when they ask you the invoice wise details. But in future, if you see what will happen, each invoice which you are generating, the FTA has access to that invoice. So it might happen that in future, your audit also, they will have all the data and they start asking questions from there because they have all the information of you. And this is the way it will work. Right now, they have not told that the returns will also be auto-populated. But in future, in other jurisdiction and other countries which we have seen, it is very common that once e-invoicing comes, the next phase is your returns also gets auto-populated through the data which is already available with the FTA. So this is something which is very, very important and I'll present and after that I'll take the questions. One thing is, this is different from KSA. KSA was not following this model. So this is a decentralized 5-corner model which will work under the PayPal network. And in KSA, the model was different because every time KSA was a centralized model. So when the invoices are being generated, you need to get a QR code from the ZK and then only you can generate the invoice. Here, if you see, there is no requirement from the FTA to approve the invoices. So it would be more real time, more faster. So that's the major difference between a decentralized and a centralized model. So here, if you see, all invoices are going, the FTA is just as a repository. They are just storing the data. They are not giving any approval. So it would be more faster as compared to the model which was in KSA. So as I said, in February 2025, they issued a consultation document. The consultation document eventually, they provided the data dictionary. What is a data dictionary? Data dictionary means the format in which the invoices needs to be issued or the data which you require for the purpose of issuing the invoices. They have given 16 use cases. 16 use cases means 16 situations in which you need to issue the invoices. So, I will not taking or discussing all these 16 use cases. I will just take one use case, which is the most important one, which is your UAE standard tax invoice, and explain what the FTA wants. So if you see on the screen, this is use case number 1 for standard tax invoice. And it has almost close to 50 data fields. So in your ERP, in your system, you should have, for the purpose of e-invoicing, these 50 data fields. And these are all mandatory. And if you see on the screen, this is not a mistake from our side that half of the slide is blue and half of the slide is white. It has been purposely done. So the blue ones means the data which ideally you must already be having in your ERP system, because these are the data field which is as per Article 59 of the UAE VAT law, which is the invoicing requirement, correct? So this you already must be having. But all this is which is in white, which you need to have. So for each invoice, if you are doing B2B and B2G, these are the minimum field which you require. So your question would be, if I don't have those fields, what I need to do? So that's the work what ASP and your consultant has to do. You need to have those details in your ERP system or the supporting system you have, and then they should be able to, fetch that data in the XML format and provide it to in the system. So this is the way it will work. So, and similarly, as I said, that there are 16 use cases, and for each use cases they have given the data fields, the data fields which they require. So how it will work is standard invoice 50 data field. If there is an export invoice, 50 plus 2 more. If there is another invoice, say for example a commercial invoice, then there would be 50 plus 2 more details. So that's the way the data fields will increase. But just for our discussion purpose, what they need is, when the e-invoicing will come in your system, you should have minimum these fields available. If these fields are not available, your e-invoicing will not work. Now, the next thing is, as a business, what we should do. What should be our plan? So as a business, basically the most important thing is that you need to do first the gap assessment. Gap assessment is ideally to identify, what is the capabilities of your system, whether the system is capable enough of having, the details which is required as per the e-invoicing use cases. So that is what the gap assessment is, identifying what are the capabilities of your system are and what is required. So that needs to be done. Next is, we understand by the end of May, the list of ASP, the accredited service providers, would be out. So you definitely need to engage or have a discussion with an ASP, because their role is very critical, as I showed you in the corner model, 5-corner model. So you need to engage with an ASP, because ASP would be the person who, with your own consultant, or maybe if you want to do in-house, they will identify whatever the fields where they are there and how they ensure that these are converted into XML format, and then it is working on the e-invoicing model. So definitely you need to work with ASP, which is the next thing which you need to do. The next part is, once you did your gap assessment, you appointed an ASP, you need to do training for your team, which is the most important one, because this is something which is very different from the current regime what we are following. An invoice is something which is the most critical part, because if you are not able to generate invoice on the July 26th time, your business is stopped, correct? And effective July, if you are falling into the B2B or B2G, you don't have an option. You have to issue an invoice. So it is very, very important that proper training mechanism should be there to your team, not only the tax team, but tax team plus finance team and the wider team, where they should know how the e-invoicing process works and what are the nitty-gritties of the e-invoicing process. And the last is, and most important part is UAT, which is user acceptance testing, because this is a very big IT change, and without proper testing you cannot implement that. So that testing has to be done, and proper testing or all the use cases. The FT has right now given 16 use cases. When you go into your business scenario, you may have all the 16 cases, you may have less cases. So you need to test all those cases to ensure that the results are proper, and then it is a smooth go live for you. So all those things as a business you need to do to ensure that you are there, you are sufficiently prepared before the go live date. I think I have 10 minutes with me. I would be happy to take any questions. Yes, sir.
On the model that you showed, where suppliers are sending the invoice, what happens if the supplier sends an invoice but a customer doesn't record it in their system? and who is the responsible party in that?
So how typically it will work is that once you are into this B2B and B2G model, it is responsibility of all the supplier and customer that they mandatory have to be registered in the system. So they has to have an ASP, both the sides. So it is something, it is mandatory for them to there. And say for example, if I take an example where you are doing an export sale, okay, so your customer is overseas. So in that scenario, he is not in the PayPal network or he will not register. Then in that scenario, what will happen? You raise an invoice from corner 1, corner 2 will validate, and after that the data directly go to corner 5. So it will not move to corner 4 and 5. So in a scenario where you have a local sale which is happening B2B, but your customer has not done, then it will be an invalid transaction, because ideally it should follow corner 4 and corner 5, but it will not be there. So it might happen that that will not be validated and the transaction will not go through, and then it will come as an error message to you. Yeah.
Aspiring to become an ASP, or is MMJS aspiring to become an ASP?
For Wafeq, I will let Badr answer that, and for MMJS, I will reply.
Yeah.
So MMJS definitely, yes, we will partner with an ASP, and as I said that this is a dual responsibility or a dual role where we'll require an ASP plus a tax consultant, because ASP role is more from a tax technology perspective, where they will guide you from a system perspective. But the use cases, what do you require, what you don't require, the user acceptance testing, the gap assessment, that needs to be done by a tax firm. So definitely MMJS will have a partnership with an ASP, and we will roll out a project for that.
Yeah, and you can ignore this question if you don't want to, but why partnering with an ASP? Why not becoming an ASP?
So both the options are open for us. Right now, it's early days for us. We are also understanding, because we are a core tax firm. But if the business opportunity arises, we can definitely become an ASP also. But right now we have not decided. We are into that phase where we are evaluating the process, and then we will take a decision once we have more clarity on it.
But you briefly mentioned that the list of the approved ASPs would come in the month of May.
Yeah.
Right. So that means you still feel that there is a chance of becoming ASP, or after May also addition of ASPs would happen?
It might happen, and I can discuss that with you offline as well. But that's the process which is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Final question.
Yeah.
How long does it take to actually implement or execute the invoicing? I mean, based on your experience, since the timeline you're mentioning, or which has come from the government, is 2026 Q2.
Yeah.
Typically, for an organization which is 50 employee or 100 employee organization, what would be a typical timeline to execute or implement the invoicing?
So the timelines will vary. It will vary from the amount of invoices not on the number of employees you have, the amount of invoices which you generate. So say for example, if you generate
100,000 employees, 100,000.
Yeah. So
invoices.
that will take more time. So if you have only 1,000 invoices, then it will take lesser time. Timelines perspective, what we understand, as I said, from June, the regulations, and the law and regulations would be out. Where more clarity would be there, what type of transaction is covered, what type of transaction is not covered in phase 1, which entities goes, which entity does not go. So some clarity is required. But say for example, in June 25, all those details are there. We expect clearly, the businesses should be ready by January or February 2026, and then they should do a UAT for 1 month. So ideally March 31st should be date where you should be ready. You should not stretch it till the end, because one is if you don't do planning properly, which I have seen in the VAT implementation date, you will not get time, and you will not be able to do proper justice or proper testing. So broadly, time limit, if you ask me, 6 to 9 months will take for any business to get ready. If you are a very small business, it may be 5 to 6 months. But if you are a proper normal business, then it takes 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, I agree, because I think in the wave when VAT came in, the challenge with this is that each of the organizations, the go live for that project is same, right?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely,
it is 2026, so there would be such a rush.
Yeah.
The first question, which was for WafeqNEXT, if you can answer that as
well. I think Badr will answer.
Yeah, happy to answer that. Yes, we will be an ASP. So ASP is really a technology provider. So, and that's our business. So we'll be an ASP. And if you use Wafeq, it should be pretty seamless experience. Pretty much you'll be ready overnight when you connect your account.
Thank you. So I had a question regarding B2B and B2G. Today, so we're a service provider for government mainly. What happens is that we upload our invoices to specific formats to specific portals for each and every government entity. Why police is different from X, Y, or Z. And it's true as well for big conglomerates, like Majid Al Futtaim, Attar. Each and every one has a different, application, different portal, different format. And this induces, whether we like it or not, delays in payment because the invoice is not compliant, this is missing, that is missing, the field is not whatever. Will that be sorted out with the e-invoicing, meaning all the government portals will be unified, it will be the same thing, or then it will be again this different format?
It's a very good question. What I believe is that, you know, what you are talking about, it is more like, say, you know, government has their own procurement portal where you need to put an invoice in a particular format and then only they make the payment. But right now, what will happen when you are going through the e-invoicing, in all these portals, you need to put a physical PDF document that gets uploaded. But here they are not talking about a physical PDF document. As I said, the invoice data will flow in an XML format. So it's a different format in which the invoice data will flow. But you can discuss this with your consultant and the ASP, that at the same time you can generate a PDF document as well. So when you are issuing an invoice, you will have the data flowing in an XML format which your ASP will take, and at the same time there is a PDF document which would be generated which can be given to your customer. That PDF document you will have, you know, a right to modify however you want. Yeah. Correct. Yes. I think it would be different because this is only the FTA's requirement. This is not the requirement for these respective, you know, the Dubai police or any other government department. So I personally think that it still would be different. If they in future align with the FTA, that is a different thing. But right now, for some period, it would be different. Yeah.
One last question, please. Sorry to interrupt. We have time for one more question.
Yeah.
Loud enough.
Yeah.
For buyer identification number for 5 European Union countries which have been published in this consultation document, do you have some insights on this? And sorry, I have another question.
Yes.
For reverse charge mechanism, the invoice for imports, what is the expectation on that one as well?
Yeah, ma'am. Both the questions are very, very good questions. So the answer to the first question, what we understand, as I said, that yesterday only there was a meeting between us and the Ministry of Finance where they issued or given some explanation on the on the e-invoicing consultation paper which they have issued. So what we understand is there would be a ministerial decision which would be issued, and there would be another data dictionary which would be issued where all these answers would be provided. So this was specifically asked by us to them, and they said that ministerial decision along with the updated data dictionary would be allowed, where for each data field, as you said, there would be guidance which would be given that from where you have to take and how it will work. So that is answer to your question one. In relation to RCM, this is our view also, and I think FTA is very clearly categorized that whenever you are importing concerned goods or concerned services, RCM is applicable and you need to do a self-invoicing, and those self-invoicing needs also to be done under the e-invoicing environment as well. So FTA, when yesterday we were having the discussion, they in a way they acknowledged that, and they said that for self-invoicing on RCM also you need to that needs to be done also under the e-invoicing module.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you
Thank you,
so
Ankur.
much. Yeah.